speaking French across the table in our house. And we should like to share both the land. But how would I be able to do that? Show me your palms and press them on mine, love. I don't feel this way most of the time. We drove out of state and you went through some red lights. We're not the type of people to slow down. We're just playing by the tempo given to us. There is this part where it feels like time.
Hello and welcome to another CT versus audio interview. For this interview, I'm joined with Alex Saraceno from the band Zanders. I hope you've heard some of their music before, because they're one of Connecticut's very best bands. But if you haven't, the band are a little bit different than some of the other bands that I've covered in these audio interviews and on the blog. They are a three-piece where Alex handles vocals and keys, Kevin O'Donnell plays bass and provides harmonies, and Jason Rule plays drums and also provides harmonies. And you may have heard of those two last guys. They're also in Queen Moo, another fantastic Connecticut band. But the three of them together, their music is an art-forward piano pop collaboration. They're part musical theater, part rock band. The song you heard there in the intro, that kind of gives you an idea. That song is called Your Palms, and it is from Xander's upcoming record, Concentration 64, which will be coming out January 24th on Funny Bone Records. You can pre-order right now on their Bandcamp page, xanders.bandcamp.com. I'm a big fan of Xanders, and I am completely comfortable telling you that this is their best album yet. I love it, and I cannot wait for folks to hear it. In this interview, I talk with Alex about this new album, and I also talk with her about the responsibility that comes with being a songwriter and whether or not Cole Porter likes chocolate quadratinis. So here it is, my interview with Alex Saraceno from Zanders. All right, here today with me I have from Zanders, I have...
Alex Saraceno.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. We are recording this on a pretty New England-ish afternoon. So the first question that I have for everybody is, what is your favorite place in Connecticut? And I don't mean like a venue. It can be a venue if you want to, but what is your favorite place in Connecticut?
I think there's some nice scenes on the old 84 East taken in the Hartford skyline. Yeah. Connecticut in a car.
Sure. You're actually not the first person to say that. A lot of people have brought up 84 and actually Route 8 as well.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So paint me a picture. You're driving your favorite places in a car on 84. We're assuming that there's like not a whole lot of other traffic, right?
Right. Or the traffic. I guess that's part of the spirit, the Connecticut driving energy, which is quite, it varies with each season, I guess, but.
Sure. So are we talking morning drive? Were you seeing the sunset come up over the landscape, or are we talking sundown?
How about a sunny fall day? I think Connecticut's pretty good in the fall there. Good energy with a bright sky.
I don't know if this is how true this is, but this is like a cool piece of trivia that I just learned, is that, the artwork for OK Computer by Radiohead,
mm-hmm.
That's apparently I-84 outside Hartford.
Or the fantastic piece of, the trivia when you're on 84 and you're headed, say, like, you're past Hartford, I believe, but it's a long stretch and you see like the medical center, like UConn Medical Center. And, it gets smaller as you get closer to it. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but that is usually my talking point when I am in the car with someone new to Connecticut or new to 84. So keep an eye out for that visual effect.
Yeah, the ever-shrinking UConn Medical Center.
Right, as you get closer, which should get larger.
All right, so I-84 has the Zanders stamp of approval.
Yes, from Holy Land to the Medical Center. Yeah.
That's right, yeah. Have you been to Holy Land?
I have not since it's been reopened, though. You know, they had a big re-unveiling of the fresh cross, but have gone there only in other circumstances.
Gotcha. I was going to say, most people that I know who have said that they've gone is usually because they were like climbing a fence and like wanted to see it, you know, at night or something like that. Like a very punk thing to do. All right. So next question, I'll throw you a soft one. Do you think nature or nurture contributes most to someone's personality?
Well, obviously both here.
Yeah.
But contributes to their personality.
Yeah.
To the way they interact with others.
Sure.
I'd say nurture.
Okay. So basically how people are treated and how, you know, where they're from and things like that.
Yes, their parents, their family unit, their surroundings, their those moments, early moments in life.
Okay. So like childhood stuff?
Yes, like infancy.
Do you think that we get locked into personalities?
I think you can. If you stay in the same place. I don't know, if you don't question your surroundings, I think you can get stagnant.
Right. And that makes sense given your answer about nurture, that like if you don't change the environment or the nurture aspect of it, then the personality doesn't change.
Right. To develop at some point self-awareness and the ability to reflect, I suppose. And then ideally grow, learn, and not be in this arrested development.
What do you mean by that?
To move forward at each stage of our life, right? We're making certain emotional, mental, physical developments. But I think if we refuse to rise to the occasion to grapple with these things, then we're stuck in that stage forever. And you are certain, you might be 30 years old, but you still haven't like accepted or worked out some issues with growing up, things that maybe should have been addressed in adolescence.
That was, I feel like we got surprisingly deep very fast. All right. So, where are you originally from? Connecticut?
Correct.
Okay. Is any specific part you grew up in?
Yes. Originally, born in Waterbury.
Nice.
Grew up in Oakville, which is kind of part of Watertown, where I later moved. But they share some of the same schools and such. So, Oakville, Watertown.
How do you feel about, like, do you have a pretty, I don't know, like, I feel like some people crap on Waterbury, and I feel like it's super unfair. Like, do you have any kind of, I don't know, feeling strongly about Waterbury? Because I feel like a lot of the people that we come across in the music scene, you know, they're usually like from the Hartford area or the New Haven area or even like the Torrington area. And I feel like there's less from Waterbury. What do you think that is? It
seems like, I'm not an expert about Waterbury's history, the brass circle there, the brass ring. But it seems like it has recovered or is still trying to recover from or to revitalize the area there.
Yeah.
And I don't mean in terms of like it needs more pricey coffee shops or something. But the opportunities, I think, for in terms of like the music scene, like I feel like growing up, most shows in this part of Connecticut were a strange venue. Maybe I can't remember the name of it, but it's close to Sin City. There was one spot there, and then house shows, which it didn't feel like that was the case in maybe other parts of the state.
Yeah.
but I enjoy Waterbury. A lot of nostalgia for certain places there.
Yeah, that's interesting that you point out like the house show aspect, because I feel like at least today, most of the house shows, at least that I'm aware of, are, at least in the state, more kind of in the Hamden area or in the Stores area. I feel like there's less in Waterbury these days, and I don't know why that is. But yeah.
Yeah, it could be just like a little kaleidoscope of where the pockets of house shows land as this scene kind of evolves, you know?
Right.
I feel there was a lot with the Tatanka house in Naugatuck.
Okay.
Or even was it Little Tommy J's there in Waterbury or something? And the infamous Mitt Pit of town. Yeah.
So, and I guess one of the reasons why I'm kind of leading in this direction is because I feel like Zanders has a unique sound. Not just even like for Connecticut, I feel like it's a unique sound for bands just in America, but like in the Connecticut scene, there's no other band that even sounds close to Zanders. And I was kind of curious why you think that is. And I don't know if that's something that maybe you don't agree with that.
Well, the sounds that happen in Zanders are certainly influenced by an upbringing of local music. Okay. And it's definitely aware of hearing. I feel like it's not like Zanders existed before we all started going to shows. All of us had different bands that we were a part of. So I feel like well versed in this sort of canon of Connecticut local music, or even New England kind of music, thinking of keyboards in like black churches or something, or other bands that influenced our sound for sure, but also a lot of other elements of what we do with music outside of local music.
Right. And I could be wrong about that, but like it seems like you have a very rich history of music outside of just the pure DIY local music aspect of things, right?
Yes.
But when did that start? Did you grow up playing? Was it something that was kind of encouraged in your household?
Yes. There's a lot of music around. A lot of classic kind of rock music. That's feel like a healthy diet to be raised on. But yes, and also started piano lessons at a young age.
Okay.
And as a gift for my 5th birthday, my aunt gave me a month's worth of piano lessons with a local teacher. Mm-hmm. After, hearing some music taking place, there's come from a big family. Every Sunday they get together, have their dinners, and in the basement of one of these houses there's a piano, and I would be taught some songs from some family members, maybe a little Italian folk tune or some basic songs there. And upon recognizing this curiosity, my aunt gave me some lessons there, and then I continued to take lessons with a teacher until the end of high school.
Very cool. So it's been a part of your life basically from the beginning.
Yes, I would say so. Yeah.
So to fast forward to now, sometimes on Instagram, I see you kind of talking about, like, you recently played a show in Brooklyn, kind of celebrating the birth of
Olivier Messiaen,
okay.
French composer.
Okay. Yes. And so one of the things that I'm really fascinated by kind of in your music and in your songwriting is this kind of dynamic between this more kind of stately classical side and the more kind of loose rock and roll side. Is that something that you think about?
Yes. There is with this album, it was, I'd say, written over a longer period of time, some of these, and maybe that I feel like the way that track listing presents itself here is somewhat chronological, and maybe that is audible, the difference, and some of the pieces some of the songs that we've been playing together, the three of us, for a while, when we play them live, they can have a different, moving forward with the rest of the tunes on the album, I felt inspired maybe to capture some of these antics that come out in a live show, which might be like, we can play this differently because we've been playing it now for, we've had this quote unquote new song for 3 years. So, but which was really interesting and part of the joy I feel in making music with Kevin and Jason. But these kinds of antics that maybe are these unstable moments, I don't know. And then the other part's more balanced. I'm not sure.
And so the new album, is it called Concentration 64?
Correct.
Where does that name come from? It seems so different than Been Better and Buried Men.
Yes, it was tempting to keep the alliteration going. But that seemed silly. Are you familiar with do you have any associations with Concentration 64?
Actually, I do not. I am totally naive to this.
Which is interesting. I was curious how many folks would know this, because there's some people who read it and have no associations, but for some people, I think they will hear it. Concentration 64, which is like a hand game you would play.
Oh,
and
okay.
So it continues, Concentration 64, no repeats or hesitations. I'll go first, you'll go second. Category is, and then someone calls a category. You could say like fruits. And then we have to go back and forth and we'll clap in between each one.
Yeah.
Saying bananas. And then you would name grapes. And we keep going. But if someone repeats or hesitates, they are out.
Interesting. So why? So given that connection and that association, why did you feel like that was the right name for these dozen songs?
Couple reasons. One, I didn't want to get too sentimental or think too much about it with any of these titles, whether for the songs or the album overall, but I still care about this as work. So I think the word itself, the title, is interesting, as some people will read it and not have this association, but for the folks who are familiar with this game, I feel it's impossible to read that and not hear those three claps in between the words, which is an interesting, oral experience, I guess, in one's mind, that you can, reading some words will also conjure up this other rhythmic association.
Yeah, it's kind of synesthetic.
Yes.
Right, yeah. That is the word. Not yeah. Okay. Sorry, I doubted myself. I was. Okay. So.
And also no repeats or hesitations there. So I feel in some of these tunes, they just kind of go on and maybe something happens and maybe it will come back as a verse, or maybe it's just one thing that has happened, and we're just going to move right into the next thing. No hesitate. But that was not a totally conscious. I think that just works out with the nature of the game and the nature of some of these songs.
And it's interesting that you bring up, there's like, the aspect of it may come back around or not, because the first track on this is called Buried Man, and it riffs on a song from your previous album, right?
Yes, there's a couple, I guess, a direct call back to the first two albums in the opening of that, saying, we've done this and we've done this.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
And so why did you want to get quote unquote meta for that? Like, was it something that, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but at least for me, the listener, the way that I kind of interpreted that was, it was kind of like, all right, we're starting new and we're going to show you, like, we know what the previous two albums were and we know what was going on those albums. And now that we've kind of invoked their spirit, now we're moving into a new direction. Is that fair to say, or is that totally misreading?
No, I don't think that's misreading. That, and also, there is not just one reading of any of this. As
sure.
Within the other two albums, there are a lot of, well, in the last album, there are a lot of references to Ben Better, whether through reoccurring characters or even references to songs from pre-Zanders days. So there's been this level of this kind of self-referential storytelling, or just kind of entertainment for the folks who know. But it's also, I don't think that's a requirement. So if you're hearing Concentration 64 and you don't know Buried Men or Ben Better, I don't think it is. I don't think it will impact your listening experience. So it's more just for those who can have that little moment, similar to the title, Concentration 64. Some people will be like, I don't get it. Nintendo 64, maybe some other connections to it. I don't know. And just like with some of these lyrics, they will be very clear to certain folks.
Yeah, so basically Easter eggs.
Yes.
Cool. So you were mentioning how the track sequencing on Concentration 64 is roughly chronological?
Correct.
So yeah, now that you mention that, it that totally makes sense, because when I think of a song like Terms and Conditions and Marble, which are very far apart on the album, like they sound very different, and it feels like they have kind of a different approach.
They do, for sure.
So was this this record, how have you been working on it since Buried Men, or was there a break in there?
Some the tunes were already developing as Buried Men was released, I believe here. Yeah. And then we recorded all of the piano and drums last October. Okay.
So October 2019?
October 2018.
Okay.
We started the recording process.
Right. And so in what way do you feel like this, and you've already touched on this a little bit, but I always like to think of every album as kind of a response to the last album, right? It's almost like you're writing a letter to yourself in response to the last thing that you wrote. And so with that in mind, what way do you think Concentration 64, at least musically, how is that a response to the previous two records?
I believe this album is more musical, takes more time with sound than with maybe what seems like aggressive storytelling in Buried Men.
Okay.
I think there's more opportunity. It seems like we are more patient and are okay with having moments of not just, but having an interlude of sorts. That it's there can be some space to breathe.
Right.
So I don't think it has the same kind of tension in some ways, or anger, or I think it's a very different energy than the previous albums.
Do you think that reflects any kind of changes in your life since Buried Men?
Yes, I think so. I mean, just we took more time with this overall. Which Buried Men wasn't a rush to do, but just a different circumstances, different place this music was coming from, and I guess even maybe the content doesn't seem so dire or dramatic.
Okay. So the previous two records they were entirely independently released, is that right?
Well, actually, we had assistance with the old Sea Green Records.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
With Ben Better, I'm quite sure.
Okay. So I was talking with Dylan Healy, and he was mentioning that is that correct that you're going to be releasing this through Funny Bone or in collaboration with Funny Bone?
Yes, this is true.
And so why Funny Bone Records? He's not going to listen to this, so you can be candid. From the stance of being in a lot of ways a very independent band, what was your decision, or why was your decision to kind of go with Funny Bone, who they're new, they have lots of great artists on their roster, but I was just curious about like why go from independent to working with them? What was it about them that enticed you?
Dylan is very genuine and honest, and gives such a good vibe. Even before we started recording this album or had any plans to, I mean, well, yes, we were going to do something, but very early on, he had sent us a kind message that seemed personal and welcoming, expressing some curiosity there. And now it's almost 2 years later from that, and I like the vibe there. I feel like in general, I'm thinking of the show at Warehouse.
With Standby, Pet Fox, and Kay? Is that right?
Yes, that one. And was there... Oh, I guess I don't know if Funny Bone was really a part of that. I'm just thinking because Dylan...
Live at the Launch?
It's Laura Wolf and Kelly Quigley, Samurai Sword. That was last November.
Right.
But anyway, I feel like that and the Standby show as well. But I guess that is Tiny Box booking. But I'm just associating Warehouse with Funny Bone. But
yeah, I do that too.
But I know that is a good vibe and a good show. It's separate from Funny Bone maybe, but that kind of authenticity or care in a listener, which I think is rare to come across and feels especially special when it's something you've created, different from saying, oh, I think you should listen to this album I just heard by blah, blah, blah. And they listen to it and that's great. Or they don't and it's fine. But when you're sharing your own music and you hear someone say that we listen to it and we support it. So we don't just like it, but we want to be a part of it.
Right.
Is quite special and feels nice because you're not making this for other people to say, I really like it. So it's nice when it does happen and someone says, hey, that's nice.
I think that's the thing about like Dylan is that he's always, ever since I've known, he seems like super genuine and sincere. And and just echoing what you said, he seems very like a fan first of music. You know, it feels like Funny Bone exists because gives him a chance to hype up and promote and get people excited about music that he also loves. If that makes sense.
Yes. I think he's aware of the sort of local music ethos of
right.
organizing. Just very conscious of maybe different audiences and different performers, and connecting the two.
So another thing that I've always kind of wondered as a fan of your music is what kind of music do you listen to whenever you're not thinking about like writing new music, just like in your off time, you know, like just for pleasure? Like what kind of music do you tend to gravitate towards? Because it seems to me very different than what I imagine Jason listens to, who loves Thin Lizzy and AC/DC right now, right?
Yes, I feel that Kevin and Jason consume music in an amazing way, to just go through like entire discographies, like chronologically, like it is. And I feel like that informs their music making.
Right.
And they just are so well versed in the canon of many different styles of music. And a lot of music that I start to then listen to would come up because they'll play something and I'll hear it. I'll be like, oh my goodness, this is great. And then listen to that over and over for some time. Yes, but then by the time I see them again, they are in the depths of a different album or band.
So it seems like, and again, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but it almost sounds like whenever you take up something new that you're listening to, that it's something that you like to explore and kind of get in depth with, like maybe even study. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that is fair to say. I think it's a pleasant experience to get to spend some time with an album or a piece of music for quite some time, if you like it.
Are there any examples of, I guess, recent albums that you've come across? It doesn't have to be like a new album, but like something that you feel like you've been able to explore and investigate at that level.
I think like the Margaret Glaspie record, Emotions and Math, was a nice experience to hear over and over.
Yeah.
Some Blossom Dearie, Mitski's latest album there, some Cole Porter, some Julia Michaels.
I don't know if I know Julia Michaels. What kind of music is that?
Just like to go on the record recommending this album, Inner Monologue, part 1, not part 2, part 1.
I see.
The Inner Monologue part 1 is a quick little like 20-minute album.
Mm-hmm.
And quite a beautiful. I mean, okay, some things are a little corny, but for popular music, I feel like the production and the effects, I think it's a very effective album that I definitely listen to 30 times.
Awesome. And so it sounds like as a listener, you like to, like I said, explore and investigate, study, immerse yourself in these records. Do you think whenever you are writing music that you have the same kind of goal in mind for your listener? Is that something that you think about? Like, do you want to make albums that people can do the same thing with?
It doesn't seem like my responsibility. It seems like you can do that that's on the listener, and I think you can get that out of this album to listen to it and hear something different, as I think we get a little bit more varied instrumentation, or we have some more details where it's not just straight 3-piece and occasional harmonies, but we have some other details.
It's very playful. I found Concentration 64 to be very playful in that regard.
Yes, that's a nice way to put it. I think there is something playful, like little musical theater. So yeah, I think you could listen to it and hear some things, but I don't think any of us are adding these details, having these ideas in the hopes that someone notices. It's great if they do, and that will be a special conversation or a moment for them to have, but we're not advertising.
Right.
To say, okay, it's great, but your 10th time through, you're going to like it. This is just a scheme to get more plays. Hits.
Right. So one of the things you said that struck me is you said that making songs like that, like, that you can't study, that's not your responsibility. Do you feel like as a songwriter there are certain responsibilities that you have?
No.
Okay.
I mean, to myself, some things, but along the way, there were some tunes that we decided not to put or include on this album, and I feel that was a mutual decision that came from how we felt about the song as a whole, and not so much influenced by thinking what a potential listener might think of, like, oh, this is, I don't know. I don't think that should be the, I'm grateful for anyone who listens to this music, well, either once or 10 times. And I'm delighted when people do and they share their experience or thoughts with me, good or bad. But that's, I don't think, a useful voice to have in the writing process, to let that into. They don't have a say in what the album becomes.
Right. So in some ways the album is more for you. Is that accurate? Or more for the
even
band?
Just like, I feel, this is when I hear the other albums, I think of Kevin, Jason, and I playing this music, and also what these songs are about. When they were made, when we played them, certain shows where we played them, and I think with other music that I listen to, I don't expect to have. I imagine the people who write that music have obviously their own relationship to it, and they're not thinking like, this is what the fans. Maybe we don't have enough fans to cater to them, but but it would seem quite silly to try and like craft the perfect song that would like that would seem like something really, really relevant right now, whether that gets into, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously for everybody, for anyone. But what makes me really delighted about it is, yes, having these certain experiences or memories kind of like put into this 2 or 3 minute experience that then we have now saved in a recording, kind of preserved in like a little amber or like a fossil or something. Like,
yeah.
Now it lives there. But we can access it together, the three of us, and have some fun with it.
It's interesting that you bring up kind of the way that it becomes a document, where it's an experience that you then, by recording it, turn into a shared memory in a way. Because one of the things that I thought was really fascinating about your warehouse gig was I think you only played new songs at the warehouse gig with Standby and Pet Fox. And then whenever I saw you again at Live at the Lawn over the summer, you played a lot of new songs. And I remember thinking, like, I remember this song. Like, I know this song. And it was astonishing to me, kind of like how memorable all of those songs were, like, that I felt like I don't know, it's not an experience that I have with a lot of bands where, like, I hear them, and then whenever I hear them again live, that I recognize just from hearing one time. And I thought that was really kind of cool about this new album, that it is immediate and memorable, but that it's kind of peppered with lots of playful arrangements and lyrical Easter eggs and motifs that kind of come up not just within the album, but across albums. So thank you for providing that experience for an audience member like that. So.
Yes, thank you for finding that, because it's not something we told you to do.
Well, Kevin told me to do it, but I don't normally. I don't normally take orders from him. But.
I see. He's hard to say no to.
So, all right. So I have 2 more questions for you. So, do you have? So Zanders has been around for a couple of years. So, do you have any advice for maybe people in Connecticut that are up and coming, maybe just starting out? Any kind of DIY musicians or bands? Do you have any advice for them? Things to avoid, things to try to do, anything like that?
I'd say try to do everything. Don't avoid anything. Go for it. I know to just keep doing it. I think even with this last album, some of these tunes didn't make it in. But I think it's important we still try them, we still play like all of the new songs, which sometimes feels like a little bit of a risk. Like, it is a little scary to maybe share this, to try it live now. And then also, like, sometimes I recall going to a show and being like, oh, I wish they played this song though. Why didn't they play that? But just, I don't know, staying focused in the sound, and let the sound be the primary objective. I feel like make music for music's sake.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting that you mentioned kind of the risky aspect, because I thought the exact same thing whenever you played some of those live shows recently. That for me as a fan, I was like, oh, I'd love to hear For Granted Part 2 or something like that. But then whenever you play the new songs, I'm just thrilled, that you can just see kind of the interest and the fun and the enjoyment that the three of you have together on stage. It looks like you're having a blast. And I think as, an audience member, that carries over to them, to the crowd.
Yeah, there's all a lot of good vibes there. I feel never a tense, like, guys, we're gonna do this tonight. So no questions. Here's your set list, and
right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go tune my piano. There's not a lot of. It would be weird to do it any other way.
So I lied. I actually have two more questions. There was one I forgot about that I was going to mention earlier. Is there something specifically about the French language that appeals to you? Because I've noticed in this record and in previous that there's French lyrics, but also there's whenever you have like a projection, like at the warehouse, you had a Godard movie. Yeah. So what is it about kind of that French 60s vibe that appeals to you?
Film choice for the projection, which RJ and I were discussing some film business, and I was going through a bit of a Godard kick, and so we're going to play a different one, but that anyway. So I would just recommend that at large. And yes, I'd say some of my research interests as a pianist connect to parts in France's music history, but also, I guess, just Western European history, classical music. Back to this composer, Olivier Messiaen. Early 20th century music there is very interesting to me, with Messiaen, or even earlier to Debussy, or not French, but Scriabin. Just some important influences in terms of sound. I'm not saying that this album is inspired by early 20th century French composers, but and some of the tunes that feature that, yes, some are just connected to studying that music and certain experiences connected to that, I guess.
Yeah, and it makes sense given what you said, that if making music is about exploring things that you like and find compelling, and you find that to be a compelling thing, then of course it would come up in your music, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So I have a final question for you. So this is multiple parts. So I asked Crag Mask the same question, but I'm super curious to hear what your answer is on this too.
Who's Crag Mask?
That's a good question. They are these hooligans that hang out behind the Dairy Queen and are constantly throwing fluorescent light bulbs against the pavement. So that's all that I know about them. So let's say that Zanders gets Foo Fighter levels attention. So Zanders is selling out arenas and things like that, and you're on tour. So what is going to be on your rider? Can you think of one thing that is a reasonable request and one thing that is an unreasonable request for your backstage rider? And who would you bring with you to open every show?
What is a backstage rider?
Oh, so basically, backstage rider is that, like, if you get if you get booked at an arena, you tell them, like, this is what I want in my green room. This is, I want, there to be cherries and a bowl of M&Ms and, just these kind of, big kingly requests.
Are you asking me what snacks I like?
That can be part of it. It could also be maybe certain people, certain animals, certain music playing, movies playing, things like that.
Oh, I see. Well, I would want Kevin and Jason and our good friend Muse, who I'd like to give a shout out to. Muse, that's right. I would like all of us to be there. And I would like, I'd say, Natalie's orange juice.
Okay.
With the hazelnut quadratinis.
That sounds pretty awesome.
And I think that would make for a fine time.
Yeah, it gets you in the spirit of making Zanders music.
Yeah, I feel those are all usually nearby in the music making process. So try to keep it constant.
Of course. And so then what would be one unreasonable request that you would make? So one outlandish request.
So I could turn up the heat. No, I don't. I think, yeah.
No, like ice sculptures or decorated pieces of marble or anything like that?
No, I don't. I feel like some of the most authentic music making experiences, shows we felt pleased and proud of, are when we feel comfortable going into it, which I think is more of a personal thing than
Sure.
External circumstances,
Of course.
So I think we already have. We need to just channel the backstage rider of our dreams. It's already within us, perhaps.
Right. So the backstage rider was the friends we made along the way.
Right, exactly. Maybe we all got a good amount of sleep before. I think we're all very, very good.
So then the final part of that question was, who would you bring along with you to open every show? So this is somebody that's going to be riding in the bus with you, or maybe in their own bus with you. So it's somebody that a band or a musician that you're going to spend a lot of time with. It doesn't have to be anybody you know. It can be, if you wanted it to be, it could be the Beach Boys.
Oh, I see. Yeah, maybe we would bring along Cole Porter.
Okay.
I think we would have a nice time, huh?
Do you think he would like the Chocolatinis as well?
I think so. Quad.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd say that'd be a nice, or maybe what if we got George and Ira Gershwin, huh?
That would be fun.
I think that would be quite nice. Anyone who wants to sing the Great American Songbook is fine by me.
That would be such an awesome potential gig. Would be like, I'm just thinking, like, for me as like an audience member, if I was to go to like Never Get to Be Cool and there was like a small group there that sang something from the Great American Songbook like that, and like some Sondheim or whatever, and then that opened for you.
Yeah.
I feel like that'd be so much fun.
Yeah, and that is a nice spot too. I feel, just in general, the experiences I've had there, very nice.
Yeah, I always feel comfortable at Never Get to Be Cool. It's very laid back. Mm-hmm. All right, so that's all the questions that I had for you. Do you have any questions for me?
Do you have any plans to reveal yourself?
Oh, I get asked that a lot, and the answer is no. I never want to reveal myself.
And is this your real voice, or is it true that someone actually speaks for you this whole time? You're just writing down the questions.
I'm not gonna divulge that much, but I will say that sometimes whenever I call into the radio, I have a much different accent whenever people have had me on the air. And so I can't confirm or deny that there are multiple people who operate under this name.
And my last question, Are you Dylan Healy?
I can't confirm that either.
I see. Fair. Yeah. All right. Thank you for entertaining those. I hope that I didn't make you feel.
No,
There's no pressure. And if you want to cut this, I'd say that it's not my call to make, but I would understand.
I'm going to cut the question about Dylan because I got to throw the people off the trail. I don't want people barking up that tree.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I see.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex, for coming on and for answering all these questions. Thank you for your time. And for those of you that are listening out there, I'm so excited for people to hear this album. It's fantastic. And I can't wait to see y'all soon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, folks, that's it. Concentration 64 comes out January 24th, but you can go ahead and pre-order it right now on their Bandcamp page. If you haven't heard Zanders' past 2 records yet, you can both find them on zanders.bandcamp.com along with Spotify and all the other usual routes. Their 2 albums, Been Better and Buried Men, are both really great. In particular, I recommend the songs Twin Size Priorities, For Granted Part 2, and Poor Circulation. Those are just my favorites. But if you've already made your way through those, go ahead and check out Kevin and Jason's other band, Queen Moo, which released an album in 2019 called Faint Sounds of Us Hanging Out. That album is also wonderful. So to play us out, we're going to hear the rest of Your Palms, the song that we heard at the opening there. This is from Xander's new album, Concentration 64. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Sometimes I have this dream about you and me in our house. Wake up and wonder, was it all just in my